Good afternoon. Today we're going to go ahead and change oil and generally go over the engine and stuff in our 2009 Volkswagen Jetta. Just getting ready for winter. We've put on our snow tires, we've gone over everything on the underside, the brakes and everything to make sure everything's okay. So now we're going to go ahead, we're going to run it up on the lift, we're going to change the oil, going to put it back down and go through the engine compartment. So come on, let's get that done. Alright, so we're up on the lift. We're going to bring you in here so you can kind of watch what we're doing. We're going to try to find a good camera angle. So give us a second and we'll get you set up. Okay, so we're under the car. Belly pin right here is plastic. And on this particular vehicle it's held in with a bunch of Torx-headed screws. So we like to use a drill. And it just slides right out the back like that. Be careful not to be under it because it does collect a lot of crap. Now we're going to take our drain pan, get that ready. We're going to go get our wrench to pull our drain plug out with. Alright, we're going to crack our drain plug loose here. We've got our wrench. Now what I like to do is get rid of my wrench, get my drain pan, get up close because it's going to want to shoot out the backside. And the engine should be warmed up when you do this. You know, it doesn't have to be smoking hot, but it doesn't want to be stone cold either. Helps the oil run out a little quicker. And then I can set my drain pan on the floor. And I just have to keep chasing my drain, back. So we're going to let that drain for a minute. We're going to find our oil filter. And this particular car uses a cartridge, not a spin-on filter. So we'll show you how to do that in a minute when we get the filter housing out. Okay, now that our oil is pretty much done draining, we'll put the drain plug back in. Snug it up. I'm going to move forward and take our filter housing out. So we're going to take our filter housing out. It's a plastic housing right up in here. We're using a pair of oil filter plier wrenches. And it screws off just like a regular filter, except for it's a plastic housing. So use a little caution. And then it's going to get messy on us here in a minute. I'm going to let that run in the drain pan. Now I'd point out normally while something's draining is while I'd go around and grease all the grease fittings, but these new cars don't have any grease fittings. There's absolutely zero grease fittings on this car. Okay, so here's our cartridge that we took out of the car. We're going to grab that filter element, the top half here. I'm going to pull that out, and it comes out a little hard sometimes. Now in our case we have a funnel and a drain pan right there. We're going to set that in. And then I'm going to clean up the outside of it so we're not working in such a mess. Get a new filter out and our gasket. So that's our gasket. And down inside this cartridge is a little tab. A pair of needle nose would work, or like I just grab it with the tip of that screw right there. And we pull the old gasket out. We slide the new one in. Slide our new cartridge in. And that's ready to go in the car. So we'll go ahead and go back over there and get that done. And you always want to start this by hand. It should screw quite a long ways by hand. If it doesn't, something's probably not right and you're cross-threading it. And then I like to, you can see the mating surface up here, make sure it's tight. I like to snug it up with my pliers. We'll call that good. We're going to put the belly pan back on and let the car down. And putting the screws back in with the drill. These are the small tin clips, so you don't want to go too tight. This drill has pretty good trigger control. If you're worried about it, go ahead and use a T25 screwdriver. All right, we're going to let the car down and get under the hood. Now at this point, I like to leave it a little bit off the ground, just to make it a little easier. And once we do get it running, after we put the oil in, we're going to lift it up in the air and just make sure there's no leaks. So we'll get you a good shot in here under the hood, and we'll get going. The first thing I'm going to do right away is get the oil filler cover off and a funnel in there, just in case something sidetracks me. I don't end up forgetting to put the oil in the engine and think I've done that step. Just eliminates any confusion. Alright, so we're using the 520 synthetic. That's what the car calls for. I'm going to go ahead and get that going in there. We know how much the car takes. If you've done this a few times, you know, like I write it on my toolbox, all my vehicles. So at a glance, I can say this takes 4.8 quarts. So this takes, 2.5 gallons. And I don't have to try to check the dipstick. I will check the dipstick, but I don't have to try to figure it out each time. So in this case, it takes 4.8 quarts, so we're going to stop right there. We know that's full. We will check the dipstick in a little bit just to verify that. Go ahead and dispose of these. I'll grab a gallon of windshield washer and we'll be right back. There, that tops that off. I'm going to bring her in so you can watch what we're doing, but we like to check the belts, the antifreeze, and everything else while we're in here. Okay, it's probably a little hard to see on video, but this tank right here is our antifreeze for our radiator. And down on the side down here is a couple marks that say min and max, and we're right in the middle of that, so we know we're good on antifreeze. We like to look down in here and check the quality of our belt. We'll grab a flashlight and look at that. This one is fairly new. We still like to look at it each time we're under the hood, just because that's one of those things that will leave you stranded on the side of the road, and you will be calling a tow truck to come home. I suppose you could put it on the side of the road, but it's a pretty tight spot down in there, as you see. So our belt's looking good. Everything's generally looking good under here. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to fire it up, check for leaks, and put a sticker on the windshield after we check and make sure we get the right amount of oil in it. Okay, put the cap back on, set our funnel out of the way. Check our oil. Now it should be a little over full now because the filter hasn't been filled because it hasn't started yet. So we're going to check that. And it is, it's just a little over full. So we're going to go ahead and start it up, check for leaks. We'll put a new sticker on the windshield. Alright, so we run it for a little while, we check for leaks, everything looks good. We're going to go ahead and fill out our little oil change sticker here. I buy these on Amazon and fill them out myself just as a reminder because I have enough different things kicking around. I'll forget when to change it. We tend to go about 3,500 to 4,000 miles on this car between oil changes. We don't put a lot of miles on, so it's a longer period of time. You know, your manufacturer will recommend how many miles to go, but oil and filters are fairly cheap compared to the cost of an engine or a vehicle, so we tend to change things a little more frequently than the manufacturer may recommend. So any questions, leave them down below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.